Kevin, please explain your planning and productivity system. Do you set daily, weekly, monthly, and quarterly goals to achieve long-term goals? How do you track and prioritize goals without feeling overwhelmed? Is it stored digitally or on paper? Is writing goals on paper important for completion? Is there an ideal number of goals to set per week or per day? How do you track projects and tasks, digitally or on paper? Please explain in detail. What does your note-taking system look like, digital, physical, or both? Thanks again. All right, this is a full-day seminar to answer all that, which I am going to do. And this is going over here in my A folder. Actually, I'll show you where my A's are. So this, I have a little thing back here. Let me see if you can see it. You can see it over here? It's right here. That's my A's. And I look at those A's twice a week. So let me give you the Reader's Digest version. First, we have dreams. And it goes backwards, by the way. First, we have dreams. For those of you who are going to Dream Weekend, either in person or watching digitally, if you're members of the Global Information Network, having a big dream is important. Trying to expand your dream is important. Dreams are something that you may or may not ever achieve. It's a dream. It's like, man, if I hit the lottery, what would I do? I'd quit my job. I'd travel around the world. Okay, where would you go? I'd pay off all my bills. I would put a pool in my backyard. Wait a minute, I buy a new house. I just hit the lottery. No, I don't want a new house. I like my house. I like my neighbors. So I think I'll just maybe expand my house, maybe get build another room or redo the bathrooms. Okay, what would you do if money wasn't an object if you hit the lottery? Dream a little bit. I'd start a business. What type of business would you start? Man, I'd be a musician. If I didn't have to make money, that's really my passion. I'd just play music, or I'd do art, or I'd be a full-time father or full-time mother and just really spend time with my kids and really help teach them and maybe do homeschooling. Whatever your dream is, there's no right or wrong dream. But first is big dreams. From the big dreams, which you could call fantasy, but there's a difference. Gordon Ramsay, very successful guy, told me one time, he says, hey, it's great to have a dream, but just make sure you don't live in a dream world. So how can you have a dream and not live in a dream world? By breaking the dream down in this manner. If you just are always fantasizing about dreams, then you'll live in a dream world. Nothing will ever manifest. But you have to have dreams. Once you have dreams, now it's like, okay, fine. My dream with the Global Information Network is to have 1 million members. Okay, great. Well, that's down the road. My dream is to have the KT Daily, to have millions of people on the Troddo daily nutritional supplement, and to have those supplements and a whole line of supplements and a whole line of organic products sold all over the world so that people can get good stuff finally, instead of some company just caring about making money, but actually producing world-class materials so they can improve the quality of their life. That's a dream. Fine. And give all the money that I would make, give it away to charity and the shareholders, and, not for personal wealth. Kind of that turns me on, right? I have a big company like Paul Newman. I remember I was talking to Paul Newman. He owned Newman's Own. And he said when he started that company to sell his little salad dressing, organic salad dressing, he decided he wouldn't take any profits. He would just do it because his daughter wanted to start the company. But she thought, man, if I had your name and picture, it would probably become successful. And he said, okay, well, you're my daughter. I'll do it for you. But let's set it up so that all the profits of the company go to charity. He didn't think this company was going to be much of anything. And now I think it makes hundreds of millions of dollars a year in profit. And when it was making hundreds of millions of dollars a year in profit and he wasn't getting any of it, he said to me, he says, if I knew it was going to do this well, maybe I wouldn't have said, let's give all the money away to charity. Well, with my companies, I expect them to do well. And I want to give billions away. I don't want to take the money. I'll give it away. Give it to the Global Information Network and give it to the members. Give it to the Troddo fan club partners. It's my dream. Thank you. I always remember my friends. So that's a dream. So you have this big dream, but dreams are fantasies. They may never come true. Quite frankly, most dreams never come true. But you have to dream. You know why? Because you always have to shoot for the moon. Because even if you miss, you still wind up amongst the stars. But if you don't shoot for the moon, you could never hit the moon. And if you don't shoot for the moon, you wouldn't wind up amongst the stars. If you just shoot for the top of the mountain, you're never going to wind up amongst the stars, because even if you hit your goal, you can't go that far. So that's why dreams are kind of important. But then you have to break this down to reality and saying, okay, what's my chief aim? Well, I got this dream and this dream and this dream and this dream and this dream. All right, I gotta focus on something. Unless you focus, you manifest nothing. You take a magnifying glass. Some of you don't know what this is, and you can look this up online. It's called a magnifying glass. See how it magnifies? Ooh, that's what I'm looking at. You can see the reflection. So I'm looking, this is a magnifying. Sometimes I have to use the magnifying glass. But a magnifying glass magnifies. And in our day, we would take a magnifying glass outside and hold it so that the sun was into like a little laser, created a laser beam. And it magnified the intensity of the sun. And we took some dried leaves and we used to hold it. You have to hold it steady. You have to be at the right position so that it magnifies perfectly the sun. And you have to hold it. You have to hold it. Keep holding it. It ain't going to happen in a few seconds. It may take a few minutes. But if you hold it steady enough and put enough energy on one spot, it catches fire. This is how you manifest things in your life. You have to focus on something like a laser beam with all the intensity and hold it there long enough so that it can start a fire. Effectively, particles are moving. And this is how you create stuff. And I've seen this hundreds of times. I mean, seriously, hundreds of times. I walk in and the guy has a business for 3-4 years and the sales are like flat. Every year, it's the same number. Never goes up. I go, all right, let me put some attention on this for 60 days, see what happens. And then it goes up 3 times. It just goes up in sales. How did you do that? I go, look, it's not magic. I'm a magnifying glass. I focused attention and energy on a simple chief aim. And I became obsessed with it. And look what you can do. Now, when I leave, the sales are going to be flat because you won't do that. And this is where the money processes come in because they have these blocks. I don't have any. So first you have a dream, then you have to break it down to a chief aim. And this is really, it's hard because people say, well, I want to do this and this and this. I want to, my body, I want like this. My relationship, my dream for a relationship is this way. My dream for my spiritual growth is this way. My monetary dream is this. Where do I put my attention? Hey, gang, if you don't put attention on one thing, you won't get anything. You'll be the jack of all trades, master at none. Somebody says, well, Kevin, isn't kind of that you? Somebody called me that. You know, you do Kung Fu, you do all these different things that you've said. You can't be a master of everything. I'm not a master of Kung Fu. I'm not a master of yoga postures. No, I know a little of that. And you can do a lot of things, but what are you focused in on? So I'm a master of one thing. You can be a jack of all trades, master at none. You don't want to be that. There's nothing wrong with that. You don't have to be a master of anything. You can be a jack of all trades, which means you can do a little bit of a lot. And I'm pretty good at a lot of things, but I'm a master at one. So you have to focus on something. It's all about focus. So you have to break down your chief aim. And if you're looking at a business or it's like, okay, well, my chief aim right now is not my physical body. My chief aim is not learning a foreign language. That's a dream. That's a goal. That's something I'd like to do. But what's my chief aim? My chief aim is getting the global information network to a certain number of members. My chief aim is getting the fan club to a certain number of partners. Right now, you know what my chief aim is? I'll tell you. You don't usually share dreams with people, but you're my partners. And this is simple. I mean, it should be pretty obvious. My chief aim right now, my chief aim is May 9th and 10th to raise enough money, the most money I can before the 9th and 10th, so I can give as much as I can to the FTC that hopefully the judge will say, if we keep this guy out of prison, he'll pay this off. So it's stupid to put him in prison. And my chief aim is to raise enough money is to pay my lawyers so that they don't go into court, which they've done in the past, and say, Your Honor, we cannot represent Mr. Trodou because he hasn't paid his bills. So he's going to have to represent himself. And if you require us to represent him, we're going to do the absolute minimum of representation. And I don't want that. So my chief aim is real simple, to raise as much money as I can, as fast as I can, to pay the lawyers and to pay as much money to the Federal Trade Commission. So what is your chief aim? You have to come up with a chief aim. Now, a chief aim, let's say what's my chief aim here is to pay off the Federal Trade Commission. That's really the chief aim, to pay that off and to pay all my lawyers. That's the ideal scene. A chief aim, what's your ideal scene? Then you break it down and say, okay, what do I have to do to pay them off? I have to raise a lot of money. Fine. Now you set what's called objectives. So after you come up with a chief aim, so it's first dreams, then chief aim, now you come up with objectives. Objectives. You have to sit down. Now you're really kind of focusing on the how. What are my objectives? But still, end result. My objective is raise X number of dollars. You come up with some amount of money or some specific goal, some quantifiable result that you can achieve in a reasonable period of time. An objective has to be specific, and it has to be quantifiable, and it has to have a time limit. And it has to be absolutely reasonable. It can't be an unreasonable. Your dreams can be unreasonable, but your objectives have to be rational and reasonable. In fact, when you set your objective, which is specific and quantifiable with a time limit and reasonable, you should always set it so that it's absolutely something you can hit. As a matter of fact, you will be ahead of schedule. Years ago, when I'm dealing with a publicly traded company, I was putting together some numbers, and I thought, these are the numbers we should be able to hit. These are the numbers we should be able to hit. And my guy looked at them, one of my guys in the Brotherhood, and he goes, "This is BS." And he started screaming at me. And I go, "What is wrong with you? These are all reasonable numbers. We can, these are not outrageous." And he goes, "No, this is a publicly traded company. You give me numbers that you absolutely 100% can hit without even a question if everything went wrong. Because you can never give me a number that you can't hit." He says, "Kevin, if you say we're going to make $100 million and we make 99 million, you're the worst person on the planet. If you tell me we're going to make $10 million and you hit 12 million, you're a hero." I go, "Wait a minute, 99 million is better than 12 million. And he goes, "No, it isn't. You missed your estimate with 99. You said we could do 100, but you came in at 99. And the other one, you beat your estimate by 20%. You said 10 million, it came in at 12. Even though, yes, 12 million is not as good as 99, it's not about the amount. In this particular scenario, it's about beating your estimate. And by what number? That makes you a hero. This is how you create valuation in publicly traded companies. This is how you create momentum in life, because you need to have wins. So your objective has to be quantifiable, something that you can, it's specific. So specific and then quantifiable, and it has to have a time limit. Then what do you do? Now that I have my objective that I know I can hit, what action steps do I have to take to make that happen? And that's when I write things down. By the way, everything, I don't use digital. I write everything down and I put it on a board over here. It's a cork board with pins. So I write everything down. Sometimes I type it up so it looks pretty with big print, and then I put it up there. But most of the time, I write stuff down. I always write stuff down. And then I have a priority manager. This is called the priority manager. You've heard me talk about this. It's antiquated. Look, it's going to go away because nobody uses paper anymore. Everybody uses digital. But right now, I haven't found a digital solution that can match this. So I still use the paper method. And in my paper method here, I have my, there's a monthly calendar, but the most important thing is the daily to-do list. You can see a daily to-do list. So I write down my daily to-do list. And the daily to-do list is very specific. Again, it's a whole day seminar. I'm not going to get all the details here, but you have to write down your to-dos. You have to write down your to-dos, and then you have to put them in an order of A and B priority. A priorities are something that absolutely has to happen today because there's a deadline on it. A B priority is something that you maybe want to do today, but it doesn't have to happen today. And then I rewrite them. But it's not one page that I'm rewriting constantly. There's a whole series of methods of how to do this. But I have things written down for tomorrow, which is Sunday, for Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday. If I open this and go to Monday's page, there's 4 or 5 things already written. Tuesdays, Thursdays, next Saturday, next Sunday, up to 2 weeks. If you flip to each page, there are things already scheduled for me to do on that page. Let me give you an example. We got some flowers going in upstairs. So I called, had a guy come by and said, I want you to give me a quote for the flowers. He says, great, I'll get back to you next week. So I grabbed my book. And this was yesterday. So I thought, okay, he says he's going to get back to me next week. So I flipped to next Friday. I go, landscaping guy. That's what I write down. All that means is if I haven't heard from him by then, I'm going to call the landscaping guy and say, hey, what's the status? You told me you're going to get back to me by the end of the week. It's the end of the week. I haven't heard from you. Make sense? So there's a lot more details to that, but I write everything down. I keep my everything. My whole life is here. I go to an appointment to get my hair cut. I bring this with me, and they go, when do you want to come back next? I go, let me check my book. So I open up my book. I look at the calendar, and I go, all right, 4 weeks from now, how does this day and time look? How about May 11th at 3:00? Okay, good. And I write it in. I got May 11th, 3:00, and I write it down. No one has to send me a reminder of anything because every day I'm looking at this multiple times a day. No one has to remind me about anything. I'm just checking this all the time. You're keeping focused. Again, I'm going to do a whole seminar on that. And for partners at a higher level, it's going to be completely free. That's why I'm telling you, there's going to be a lot of benefits if you're, doing 100 a month or more.